how do you decide what you're going to do in a day? How do you decide what you're going to do in a week or in a month? How do you plan your to-do list? How do you plan your calendar? Well, I would urge you to, after this video, revisit that idea and maybe think about it a bit differently. Because you see, we live in a day and age where most people don't actually struggle to find things to do. As a matter of fact, most people like myself have calendars that are packed to the brim and to-do lists that are packed to the brim that never ever get done. And endless pieces of paper and sticky notes end up having, no crossed off tasks because there's too many things to do. We get overwhelmed and we don't do any of them. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you how you can prioritize what you should actually be focusing on, so you can take that, that task list of 20 plus tasks, or that, calendar of 20 plus items, and knock it down to just one or two, so you can actually focus on what matters, and as a result, work less hours, but actually get more done. Wouldn't that be great if you could work less but get more done? I'm going to share with you, I think it's six simple steps that I use that I'm going to give to you so you can do the same. So, the first things first. The very first thing that I do to make sure I know how to prioritize things is I write down a list of all the tasks of all the things I want to do. So I even have an idea board on Monday where I write down everything. Once I get ideas, I don't put them in my calendar. I don't put them in my to-do list. I put them in an idea box in Monday. You can put it on a piece of paper. You can do whatever you want. Okay, but the point is, write down all of your tasks. Now, don't do them yet, because we're going to talk about how to rank them, okay? So once you've written down all your tasks, all the things you want to do, all the problems you want to solve, you name it, whatever it is, you have a list of a bunch of different things, you're then going to write down next to the task what problem it solves, right? So, for example, your task might be cold calling. What problem does that solve? Well, it solves the problem of appointment setting and getting clients, right? Let's say if your task is like, go buy groceries. What problem does it solve? Well, it solves the problem of being healthy, for example, right? Let's say one of them is go to the gym. Well, what problem does it solve? Well, being healthy. Okay, whatever the case is, you can do this. You can do this differently, separately for business and or life. You can do them together. I'd recommend you do them separately because obviously the problems you solve for life and their business will be different. Okay, but you're gonna write down what problems these tasks solve. And if you cannot articulate what problem a task solves, it's useless. I literally remove that task indefinitely, because if it doesn't solve a problem, why are we doing it, right? Now, granted, maintenance tasks aside, okay, we're not talking about maintenance things that you just have to do. You're not going to write down sales call, right? It's that's a maintenance thing that you just have to do, for example, right? So you're going to write down independent, one-off projects, tasks, etc. Okay, so once you've written down all your list, and then beside them you've written down what problem that thing solves, you're then going to do something independent of this on a different sheet of paper, wherever you want to do, and you're going to write down your business's or your life's biggest problem. Okay, and so there's a few ways to identify this. The way I like to do it is just by using logic. Okay, let's say you're an agency and you're like, man, I'm not where I want to be. Okay, cool. Why are we not there? Well, I can't get my clients results, and I'm not booking enough appointments, and nobody shows up. And what I would simply do is just using logic go, where does the first biggest problem arise? For example, let's say if you have shitty service delivery, you have no show up rates, but you're also booking 0 appointments. Well, if we simply looked at that, if we ask ourselves, if we could wave a magic wand and solve one of these problems, which one of these issues, if solved, would make the other ones easier? Or make our life better? And the answer in this case would be just getting more appointments, because even if you fix a high show up rate, if you have no appointments, still no one showing up because you have no one to show up to the appointments. You get it, right? And so we just use logic to find out what the biggest bottleneck in the business actually is. Now, granted, if you don't know what your biggest bottleneck is, I have a free community. Join it. You can ask me and we'll figure it out together. We can hop on a call and we'll figure out what your biggest bottleneck actually is. Because a lot of times people think that their bottleneck is service delivery when they only have one client, and their biggest bottleneck is actually the fact that they can't consistently book appointments to get more people in the door. Just an example, okay? So, once you've written down, repeat real quick. Once you've written down a list of all the tasks that you want and or have to do, you've written down what problem it solves beside them, and you've crossed off all the ones that don't solve a problem because those are then useless. If it doesn't solve a problem, why are you doing it? Okay? And then you've then written down what your biggest overall arching problem is in business that you're trying to solve. Okay? What we're then going to do is we're going to then look at all the tasks, and we're going to filter out to pick out the ones that said that they solve the problem that is our biggest problem, right? So, for example, in your task list, you'll have a bunch of different tasks, some that solve traffic, some that solve conversion, some that solve sales, appointment setting, service delivery, onboarding, etc. What we're going to do is, if our biggest problem, for example, for most people is appointment setting, we're then going to look at our task list and go, okay, which one of these tasks solve the problem of appointment setting? And we're then going to grab all the tasks and put them on a new sheet of paper or a new Google Doc, doesn't matter. Okay, we're going to put them separately so we can see all of these tasks that solve the one biggest problem that we currently have. Okay, I hope you're following with me. Okay, once we've done this, we're simply going to rank them. Now, the way you rank them is different for everybody, but the way I like to rank them is based on how quick can we implement this and what is the size of the problem this will solve. right? And so, like, for example, some things will cost you a lot more money, some things will cost you a lot more time. And so what I like to look at is like, what is the input required and what is the output I gain? Let me repeat again. What is the input required and what is the output I gain? And ideally, we want a task that has very little input and very high output, because that means for very little effort, we get a high return, right? And so what you want to do is you want to just rank all these things. You can rank them 1 to 10. You can rank them, from A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can rank them high priority, medium priority, low priority, whatever you want to do. But the point is you want to rank them based on the outcome that you get from them and the input you have to do. Because something could have a really high outcome, but if it takes 10 years, well, that might not be as effective as something that has a bit less of an outcome but takes, 10 days. Because then you'll get to 70% of the outcome in a fraction of the time. Okay, so when taking two things, when you're ranking these tasks, taking not just the outcome of what you get from solving the problem, but also what the input is required on your end. Now, once you have ranked them based on like, this is the best one that will get me the highest return, like the biggest bang for my buck, the highest return for the lowest unit of action required, simply put, you're then going to take action on the 1 and or 2 tasks that have the highest return on your time. That's it. That is how you prioritize what to do in your business, in your life, in whatever, right? Because nowadays people have so many different rocks, so many different things to do that they get overwhelmed by not even knowing which one to do in the first place, because there's so many things, right? There's so many YouTube videos. There's so many books. There's so many podcasts. There's so many audiobooks. There's so many movies that you can watch that can give you different ideas, so many courses, so many masterminds that you can buy that give you different ideas of different things to do. And what ends up happening is you get a list of 100 things that you could do and you end up doing none of them because you don't know which one to do. This is how I personally and how I recommend you figure out what you should do. And constantly, when you get new ideas, that's fine. Add them to the idea list, but just don't do them right away. A way you can tell if somebody's good with their time is if a new project gets thrown on their plate, if they instantly start doing it, or if they start ranking it. That's how you can tell how someone prioritizes their time and how successful they are. Do they just put tasks on their calendar and do them right away, or do they actually think about what the return is on those tasks? Right now, if you went up to Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg or you name it, Warren Buffett, and said, hey, Warren, do this. Do you think they would do it right away, or do they think they would look at it and objectively go, does this help me grow the business? Well, I'm sure if you were Jeff Bezos, you'd probably go, well, does this help? And if the answer was no, you probably wouldn't do it. And so you should think the same way that a CEO thinks with this mindset. That's all I got. I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, like I said, I got a free community. You can get a bunch of assets, a bunch of trainings that I've made entirely for free. Nothing to sell you there yet. But yeah, it's all free. Go join. Go hop on calls with me. Ask me questions. Figure out what your biggest bottleneck is. And let's make sure you make a ton of money. Peace.